What evidence is there that it was murder?
You don't steal chocolate and then kill yourself.
Where did all this come from?
This parcel, sir.
Put it all back and get rid of that piece of wood.
Ida, bring mir das Stück Holz ins Büro.
Double all the patrols. Check every security device in the castle. Allow no one else in this room. We know there are guards who talk to the Gestapo. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
I was first in a parcels queue, sir. At 0800, Corporal Earlighter opens up the door as usual, and about 15 of us go in. And then he goes behind the desk, opens the door to the inner room, goes inside, has hysterics, and comes out calling for the guards.
You were at the counter, yet you managed to see into that office.
I jumped up on the counter, but then the guards came in and chased us out. But I went and had another look from the outside window. Henneberg was lying on the floor. He'd obviously been shot through the head, but he had a bloody great bash on the side of his face, and there was a lump of wood lying on the floor beside him.
And you think he'd been at the parcels?
Oh, yes, as I said, the French ones.
You were the only prisoner to see into that room?
I was the only one to see Henneberg. And the Germans know I saw him.
Come in.
Colonel Preston, you'll report to the Commandant immediately.
Colonel Preston, bitte. Colonel Preston, you are possibly aware that one of the guards, Obergefreiter Henneberg, has been found dead in the parcels office.
Yes, Commandant.
I understand that one of your men, Flight Lieutenant Carter, was there when the body was discovered. Has he talked to you about it?
Merely that he was there.
I have just now found out that Henneberg had apparently been stealing from prisoners' parcels. Now, that is a grave breach of military discipline, and had he been discovered, he would have been severely punished. But more serious is the fact that a guard has been found dead here in Colditz. Now, this poses many problems, not least with the Gestapo.
Yeah. Gestapo, I don't quite see.
One of our men dies here in this place. Now, this is a situation which should never arise for whatever reason. It reflects on the ability of the Wehrmacht. But if the Gestapo came to the conclusion that Henneberg was killed by a prisoner, they might take hostages. 10 lives for one. But obviously...
Commandant, as prisoners of war, we come under the jurisdiction of the Wehrmacht, not the Gestapo. The Geneva Convention clearly states...
Let me finish, please. But obviously this does not apply in this case, as it is only too clear that Obergefreiter Henneberg committed suicide. Do you understand me, Colonel?
Yes, Commandant.
Thank you. That is all, Colonel.
Jan, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, come in, sit down, won't you? Cigarette.
Thank you, no.
Merci, huh? So, why do you want to see us all, Jean?
Well, I'd rather leave that until General Riots gets here, if you don't mind. General, good morning.
Colonel Preston.
Come in, won't you?
Gentlemen?
Cigarette, General?
No, thank you.
I think that we ought to discuss the death last night of one of the German guards, Corporal Henneberg.
The Germans say it is suicide. Let us hope it's a fashion that catches on.
Yes, well, that's the trouble. It is not suicide, it's murder.
Murder.
How?
One of my officers was there when he was discovered. Henneberg was shot, all right, but he had also been hit around the face with a lump of wood.
But it's impossible. Why the Germans say he killed himself?
No, because the Commandant and the Wehrmacht have to make a suicide out of it. If it gets out that one of the guards was killed here, that will give the Gestapo the one excuse they need to take over Colditz. And if the Wehrmacht can't stop guards being killed, the Gestapo certainly could.
You say this man was murdered. He could have been murdered by another German, yes?
Yes, but is it likely that it would have happened here in Colditz? You know, a death in here doesn't just involve the police. It's the Wehrmacht and the Gestapo as well.
I would like more evidence that the guard was killed.
Oh, let me assure you, General, that there is evidence, but I think the first thing we must do, the most urgent, is to discuss what we're going to do about it.
I think the first thing we should do is to find the man and congratulate him. Huh?
Yes, perhaps, but if you'll let me explain a little further, I don't think it's going to be as simple as that.
Oh? Why not?
Because, General, I think that the Gestapo will investigate this. And if they find out that the Wehrmacht are wrong and that it is murder, not suicide, they're quite likely to take hostages. Take some of our officers out and shoot them. Now, I put it to you that in order to save life, we must be prepared, if necessary, to hand over whoever did it, if we can find out who it was. Now, gentlemen, we are responsible for the lives of all our officers. Jan? General.
So what you suggest is that we investigate.
Exactly. I also propose that Flight Lieutenant Carter be put in charge of the inquiry. He was the officer who actually saw the situation, and that you instruct your officers to give him their fullest cooperation. Come in. What did Ullman want?
He says they're going to give it out as suicide, sir.
Yes, I know.
He wanted to know how much I knew.
And?
Well, I didn't tell him anything, but, well, he didn't believe me.
Well, I've had a meeting with the other senior officers, and it's been agreed for everybody's sake that we better find out who did this. It seems appropriate that you better lead the inquiry, all right?
Well, yes, sir.
Okay, well, you're obviously going to need someone to help you. Who would you like?
Well, Captain Downing was seconded to intelligence at one time, sir.
Anybody else?
Phil Carrington speaks German, and he's good with the Poles and the French.
All right, we'll have Carrington and Downing report to me, will you?
Yes, sir. Oh, one other thing, sir. Captain Brent told me this morning, sir, that no British officer left our quarters between 12 midnight and 7 a.m. this morning.
How does he know that?
Oh, he has insomnia, sir. It kept him awake all night.
You're going to have to check it anyway, aren't you?
That happened when he fell downstairs yesterday. He was drunk.
At what time did he fall downstairs?
Mid-afternoon, I believe.
That is not possible. How could a serving soldier in the Fuhrer's army be drunk in the afternoon?
He was a sick man.
No, he was not a sick man. Otherwise, he would have been relieved of his duties.
His wife died a couple of years ago. He had bouts of depression about that.
He waited 2 years to kill himself?
It seems so.
It seems so.
He has a son serving on the Eastern Front. We wondered if it would be possible to keep the news of exactly how he died from the boy.
Yes, of course. But first we must confirm your conclusions, Hartmann Ullmann. A serving soldier cannot be drunk. A sick man cannot be on duty. Unless, of course, there are certain laxities, irregularities in the organization of this camp.
We heard he fell downstairs yesterday.
We will look into it. You'll make your men available for questioning. Also, we will possibly question the prisoners.
It is a tragedy when a soldier dies this way.
It is also counterproductive.
One German lad. No one's going to miss him. There was a difficult man on this place.
There's a lot of people who would want to get Hannibal.
All right. Well, let's start with the Dutch. There's no more than a dozen of them.
Yeah, I know most of them. They're kind of quiet.
I think they're the type that would premeditate to try to create this kind of murder.
All right, they go to the bottom of the list.
I agree.
How about the British?
Brent was up all night. No British officers left quarters. Sam rather leaves the Poles and the French.
The French have got a key to the parcels office.
Yeah, and it was a French parcel that Henneberg was stealing. Yeah, but the Poles are the type to carry out this killing. And they almost hanged one of their guys just for informing. I'm going to talk to the Poles. Colonel Chipolsky, my name's Flight Lieutenant Carter, sir. No doubt you've been told by the senior Polish officer
That's murder?
Well, what do you think?
Fuss over nothing. But a good boost for morale.
And if the Gestapo take over the running of Colditz?
Then we'll kill some Gestapo. That would be useful as well as entertaining. What do you think?
Well, I don't like the idea of somebody knocking somebody unconscious and then putting a bullet in their head.
You sound very positive.
I am.
You don't really have enough experience of Germans, Flight Lieutenant, to realize that one German less is a little gift from our part-time benevolent God.
Murder is murder.
You learn that it isn't. One day, London might be occupied by the Germans. I wonder what you will say when your families are being broken up, destroyed, transported like cattle to a slaughterhouse. Your buildings leveled to the ground, your culture ridiculed. Today you play cricket in England. I used to play polo outside the city, Warsaw. Let's go now. Replaced by certain new kinds of blood sports.
I read the papers.
You have to experience occupation, not read about it.
I have to find out who did this.
I would like to shake his hand.
Not if the Gestapo take over here and start shooting hostages.
War is like that. Death is an inevitable part of it.
Could it have been one of your lot, sir?
That's not really dramatic enough. A shot fired in the dark, an unimportant German dies. Not very Polish.
Who do you think could have done it?
Your British Red Cross parcels when they arrive. The contents and the number of them can be checked. The French get their parcels by ordinary mail. Impossible to check what was stolen from them, when and where.
And you think that's sufficient motive for killing a man?
This is the first thing we did, before Captain Champercy made the key. If you open the parcel door now, an alarm will ring, because opening the door breaks the circuit. Before the guards open it, they switch off in the guardhouse. We trace the wires of this circuit. They run along the wall, and down here. This little bridge. This little bridge slips into the wall and completes the circuit whether the door is open or not. Voila.
You were,
Kommando der Wehrmacht gibt bekannt. In tagelangen schweren Kämpfen gegen eine stark gesicherten Geleitzug im Atlantik
you were down for Chambersy's escape plan, right?
Oh, yes.
Well, then that lets you out.
Give the farmer his fun, fun, fun.
You think one of us executed the pig?
What do you think?
He stole our parcels. Very important to us. Not just the soap and the razor blades. No, it is a chance to keep our identity, our civilization in this slum. And it's also, of course, the link with outside.
And you're pleased that Hennenberg was killed?
We are all pleased. One of us perhaps more pleased than the others. So far, he's got away with it.
Look, Paul, what do you think? Do you think one of your men killed him?
Talk to Chambercy. He made the key which was probably used by the assassin.
You don't think Henneberg fell to an Englishman?
No, I don't think so.
Well, what do you think?
I think that one of you could have killed him.
What do you think?
We planned to escape through the parcels office. You know that. I made the key. My comrades fixed the security alarm. If it wasn't for this affair, we would be out to freedom by that route in 2 weeks from now. We wouldn't compromise our escape for a fat little German.
Chambersy, can I ask you, where's the key?
You can ask.
When was the last time you had the key?
The first time that I looked at it for a week was this morning at 9 o'clock.
Why did you make it for the inner door and not the outer door? That's a simpler lock.
I was planning to make one. I had plenty of time to make it. Listen, Phil. I'm telling you, it wasn't a Frenchman killed Henneberg.
De la Banque thinks it was.
De la Banque is wrong. All my fellow officers knew of the big escape. A French officer would have waited 2 weeks until we were out, and then killed him. You'll have to look elsewhere. The Poles, or the Dutch, or the British.
So you don't think it was a Dutchman?
No. I know them all well. They're all solid. They could no more do that than kill each other.
How well did you know Henneberg?
How well can you know a guard? It's like living on some remote hillside and making a relationship with a wildcat. Dangerous, but on occasion companionable.
Was there anything likable about it?
No.
Well, how come you got so close to him?
6 months ago, he came round with those German Bibles. I took one. He was some kind of confused Lutheran. I'm Reform. He made some attempt to convince me that his God was better than mine.
So you talked to him quite a bit?
A certain amount.
What about?
Religion, anything. Henneberg came from Hamburg. You know Hamburg?
No.
Big port. Half the city is bars, girls, bordellos. The other, rich merchants. Very religious, nose in the air, making their money from the port and from the vice. All hamburgers are the same. They say prayers while they steal your eyes.
I saw you having rows with him.
A couple. When I found out he was a thief, as well as a religious zealot, I was interested in the paradox and how he reconciled it.
Well, how did he?
He was a sick man. There is no problem with paradox when a person is mad. It's the cause and the definition of madness.
Did he ever steal anything from you?
I didn't kill him. He was not intrinsically a person one could get worked up enough about.
Yeah, well, somebody killed him.
Yes. But not because he was a stupid, ill-tempered German guard, but because he was a thief.
Yeah, maybe it's just because he was German.
Simon?
Peter, you take over. It's his move. Thank you.
His god was a lousy god, as a matter of fact.
Quite a turn up for the books. One of the Poles has confessed, a Major Zibnik.
Zibnik?
Anyway, Colonel Chapulski wants to have a word with you.
Where's Phil?
We have a confession. Be seated. Major Zibnek. Be patient with him. He was blown up by a mine, you know. Then did a fantastically brave escape from Pilsen. I'll get him. Kaji. How is your knitting coming on?
Well.
And how are you yourself?
Very good.
Sit down. Be seated. I am to understand that you disposed the guard Henneberg.
Correct.
Why did you do it?
There was some sun. I was in the courtyard 2 weeks ago, and there was some sun by the wall, and I was sitting in the sun, knitting my caps. The German pig came up to me and told me to move on. I said no. He calls me names and takes my needles and breaks them. These are new. I made them.
And you killed a man because he called you names and broke your needles.
Also, he stole our parcels. Everyone knows. That is why I shot him.
How did you get into the office?
I took the French key and I waited and I hit him. And I took his gun and shot him once.
Are you pleased with yourself?
I know I am not well now, but I still have some use.
Are you going to kill any others, Kajik?
I think one is enough for the moment.
Major Zibnik, can I ask a question? What time did you go down to the parcels office?
I take the French key at about 7. I open the door and return the key. I go into the parcels office at 9.
And you went straight from the Polish quarters to the parcels office?
Yes.
Major, what about the circuit? Did you connect the circuit?
Yes, Major, the circuit. Did you bridge it?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, you can't get into the parcels office without setting off the alarm unless you connect the circuit.
Oh, yes. I did that. I connected the circuit.
Whereabouts in the camp did you find the circuit to bridge it, Major?
I know where the wires are, but I cannot tell you.
Why not?
Because 2 French officers are planning to escape through the parcels office. They have organized everything. They have keys. They are able to neutralize the alarm system. And I found out everything. But I will tell no one.
You'll tell me if I command you, Colonel.
No! No, Colonel! What I have learned from the French in confidence, I must keep in confidence. I have killed a German. Small token to repay them for what they did to my family. He is dead. It is finished. I will not kill again. And I will discuss this no further.
What do you think?
Major Divnick's not the killer.
Well, he obviously knows the routine for getting into the parcels office.
No, I still don't buy it. What do you think? Phil, wake up.
What is it?
Listen, I think we've been approaching this all wrong. Just asking questions. I'll go back to the beginning in the parcels office. Now, I've been trying to reconstruct the killing, taking each nationality in turn. You know, French, Dutch, Polish. For instance, the French would have been more elaborate, and they wouldn't have left that bit of wood lying on the floor.
Yeah?
Well, each time I go over it, I find something wrong. Well, I think I've got it.
Oh, what is it?
Well, the most valuable thing to possess in this camp was left in the parcels office.
The gun?
Yeah, Henneberg's Luger. Now, I was convinced that none of us could have been stupid enough to kill Henneberg. But supposing it was done in hate.
Yeah?
If they could hate him, so could we.
Right.
Now, I think it could have been one of us in the parcels office.
Yeah, but Brent said that there was no officer left the British quarters that night.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to Brent. He's not in his bunk. What are you doing?
Eating. One of the problems with being awake all night is you get screaming hungry around dawn. I cure this by splitting my rations, eating half during the day and half now at night. What are you doing here?
Well, there's some doubt now that it was a Pole or a Frenchman that killed Henneberg.
Killed?
Yes.
Brent, you said that no British officer could have left the quarters that night, right?
Right.
Shh. Did you know Henneberg?
You mean, do I have any vague recollections of killing him? No. Not really my kind of thing.
George, Colonel Preston has asked me to make inquiries.
Has he?
Yes. Did you know Henneberg?
If I'd killed him, would I have drawn attention to myself by telling you that no one left the quarters that night?
No one said you killed him.
Did you know him?
I used to buy some things from him.
Like what?
Candle wax, pencils, refrigerators, bicycles, aeroplanes.
Used to buy?
Yes.
Why'd you stop?
Well, I thought he got his supplies from town. And then I found out that he was taking orders from me and some of the other blokes, nipping into the parcels office and stealing the stuff from French parcels.
What did you think about that?
I was annoyed. Not really enough to blow his brains out with his own gun.
How did you spend the night before last?
What part of the night?
All night.
I got into bed just before lights out. I usually lie and rest for about an hour before I light my candle.
You didn't sleep?
I don't sleep.
All right, you got into bed, you rested for about an hour, and then you lit your candle.
I nipped down here for 5 or 10 minutes.
During the time you were resting, is it possible that any British officer could have left the quarters, could have sneaked out?
He'd still have to get back in again without me seeing him. I was awake all night.
George, I want you to think about this carefully. Is it at all possible that you could have dozed off just for 2 or 3 minutes?
No!
George, we have to find out who killed Henneberg. Is there a chance you could have dozed off? Just enough time for him to nip back in and into bed.
I suppose it's possible I could have dozed for 2 or 3 minutes.
I've checked. There are 8 British officers that you have Brent's nocturnal eating habits. We'll either have to sort them out one by one, or else think of something to trick him out in the open.
It's easier said than done.
Well, put yourself in his place. I mean, he panicked. What we've got to do is to think of something that'll rattle him a bit more.
Rattle him so much he'll panic again.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, supposing the Germans are giving out that Henneberg didn't die immediately, but managed to live long enough to write something on the floor in pencil, but it's indecipherable, and the Germans think it's one of 3 names. No. All right, the parcels office. Something about the parcels office.
Well, what did you see in there? You were the only one that was
What
there.
I saw is something that we pretend the Germans have found in the parcels. Something that whoever did it dropped. Something that whoever did dropped, and the Germans have only just discovered it.
Yeah, go on.
Well, what would he have been wearing?
Well, it was cold. Greatcoat, sweater, shirt. Germans have found a shirt button.
Everybody's got shirt buttons.
Sneakers.
Sneakers?
Tennis shoes.
Oh, plimsolls.
Plimsolls? He would have been crawling around on rooftops with
Everybody's
boots
got
on.
plimsolls.
Well, he would have
And if he was wearing plimsolls, he wouldn't have lost one without noticing it.
How about laces?
Laces?
Yes. We collect all the British plimsolls, and then we tell everyone that the Jerrys are commandeering them because they found, say, 10 centimeters of broken plimsoll lace at the scene of the crime. Then our killer will automatically assume that it's 10 centimeters missing from his lace.
British contingent, dismissed!
Hey, Simon, what are you doing?
What are you doing, sir?
Collecting plimsolls. Colonel Preston's asked me to collect all the British plimsolls and put them in his room.
What for?
Oh, the Germans have found some plimsoll lace in a parcels office. The Colonel's going to give them all our plimsolls first thing tomorrow morning. That'll show them that none of us is involved.
He's becoming a foot fetishist?
What do you want me to do?
Well, we'd like to leave these in here with you, sir.
Carter came up with the idea that it might be one of the British.
Which only works if Brent was wrong and someone did get out of the quarters that night.
We think it might smoke out whoever did it.
You okay?
Get him!
Right, Marshal. Did you kill Hennenberg? How did you get into the parcels office?
You've got to give me back those plimsolls.
There was no lace found in the parcels office.
That was just a trick to get you here.
How did you get into the parcels office?
Stole the French key. Paid an impression. Made my own key.
What about the alarm circuit?
Traced the wiring. Found 2 tiny holes on the wall on the right-hand side of the office. The bank was always hanging around there. I realized I could slip a wire bridge in through the holes.
All right. Now tell us about Hennenberg.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you about him. You remember he used to go around distributing German Bibles to prisoners? Well, that was just one of his activities. He was also a thief. Stole my wallet. Sold it 2 days later to a French captain. There were photographs of my wife and 4-year-old daughter. He must have thrown those away. I had a letter from England. My little girl was with her aunt in Canterbury. The bomb hit the house and killed them.
Why didn't you tell me about that?
Because it's my business. It's my child dead. And there was Henberg, foul, obscene, spouting religion while stealing and thieving. My photographs thrown away. So I began to see him for real, as an enemy, all our enemy. So I waited, and thought, and planned, and the time arrived and I killed him. And you know how I felt about it? How I feel about it? Good. I feel very good.
Do you?
But you wouldn't know anything about that because you're trapped. You have total success, a complete prisoner. Your mind and your body, sir. And I'm insolent, and I admit I killed the enemy. So let's talk about a little disciplinary action. What are you going to do about it, sir?
What are you going to do about it, Marshal?
I've done it. For one moment I got the war inside this lousy building and I've paid off a debt.
When was your child killed?
I don't want sympathy.
You're not getting it. The basis for existence in this place is quite simple. I am in command. I have direct responsibility for the lives of 50 officers, and I'm not going to let you or any lunatic deprive me of one particle of that responsibility. Do you understand? If your idea of attacking the enemy is a personal vendetta, you are wrong.
It's finished. It'll never happen again, sir.
You bet your life it'll never happen again. You've done something that even our captors wouldn't have the stupidity to do. By your action, you could well have given Colditz over to the Gestapo. You'll never get the chance to do anything like that again, because for every hour that you remain in this place, we are going to be watching you like hawks. Now get out.
You think the Gestapo will find out I did it, sir?
Just get out, Marshal.
You think they will find out, sir?
Can the body now be sent to his relatives?
Dispose of it as you wish. The Gestapo are satisfied that Obergefreiter Henneberg died by his own hand, that he suffered from a depression which led to suicide. I am asking all senior officers that there should be no further discussion about these events by officers under their command. A careless word to the wrong ears, and the Gestapo could easily return. Thank you, Colonel. That is all.
Commandant, did the Gestapo discover the reason for the corporal's depression?
Yes, only this morning. They were checking military records. It appears that the unfortunate man's son was killed in action 2 weeks ago on the Russian front.
I see.
You will understand that the death of a child is most upsetting to a person.